What do you think about when you think about death? You ready? It's a hard question, isn't it? I was privileged to be in the company of one of my mentors. He was late 80s or in his early 90s, Homer Haley. And I was in Tucson visiting him where he lived, and so he took me on a drive. He was driving in his little pickup, and I was wondering, should I be the one driving? But he drove well, and he took me up on Mount Lemmon, which towers over the city of Tucson. It was a very picturesque day, a very cool day, wonderful, beautiful, sunny. And after a while of driving, he pulled over and stopped, and we got out. And he sat on a rock, and I sat close by. And I thought this was an apropos place to ask him a question. You see, he was 65 years older than I. And so I thought he was probably closer to death than I was. And so it turned out to be. And I said, Brother Haley, when you think about dying, what do you think about? You see, I was expecting some real deep explanation of death and heaven. And he said, you know, John, I kind of dread it. That was it. And I thought, there is an honest man. He went on to say, oh, I look forward to being with the Lord, with his people. But as far as the act of dying, I just kind of dread that, what I'll have to go through in order to get there. I have found that to be an absolutely honest response. But the Lord is with us, and I appreciated the line, and I appreciated the thoughts at the beginning. Into your hands, Lord, I commit my spirit. What a wonderful thing to be able to say when you're at the extremities of life and there's not a thing you can do about it. I've been in several of those occasions here recently as I've gone under examination on the operating table. Into your hands, Lord, it's all you. We'll take whatever you give. I want to talk to you this morning about be shrewd. Use money to make friends. Jesus. This captured my interest as I viewed images about shrewd, being shrewd. Is this right? Did Jesus say that? Use your money to make friends. I put a title on this lesson. Note this. Be shrewd, buy your way into heaven. Isn't that what Jesus is saying? Now you say, John, have you lost your mind? We all know that you cannot buy your way into heaven. Oh, really? Are you sure? I believe I can point out to you, and that's what we're going to look at here in just a moment, statement by Jesus that, yes, it doesn't have the normal interpretation that so many people think when I put that up there. But I was trying to be a little provocative with you this morning. I want you to think about it. How I use my things and who I use them for is going to go a long way to whether or not I go to heaven. Let's look at it. We'll be talking from Luke 16, 1 through 9. The crucial passage, we'll look at two verses. Verse 9, the one passage. And I say to you, this is Jesus speaking to a crowd of people, many of them his disciples, some not. And I say to you, make friends for yourself by means of the wealth of unrighteousness. We're going to look at that phrase and try to understand it better. So that when it fails, and it will, they will receive you into the eternal dwellings. On its surface, isn't it saying that how I use my wealth of unrighteousness will determine whether or not I am received into the eternal dwellings? I believe it does. Thus, be shrewd by your way into heaven. Further, let's take the whole text. Now this time, 1 through 9. Now he, this is Jesus, was also saying to the disciples, there was a rich man who had a manager, and this manager was reported to him as squandering his possessions. He's not being a good manager. And he called him and said to him, what is this I hear about you? Give an accounting of your management, for you can no longer be manager. You're out of here in a short time. You have forfeited your place as a manager by the way you've handled things. Further, the manager said to himself, this is after he received this bad news. He said to himself, what shall I do since my master is taking the management away from me? I'm not strong enough to dig, and I am ashamed to beg. I know what I shall do, so that when I am removed from the management, people will welcome me into their homes. Oh, he's forward-looking. Will take care of himself for the future. Further, and he summoned each one of his master's debtors, and he began saying to the first, how much do you owe my master? And he said, 100 measures of oil. And he said to him, take your bill or your invoice, make out a new invoice, and sit down quickly and write 50. Then he said to another, and how much do you owe? And he said, 100 measures of wheat. And he said to him, take your bill or invoice and write 80. Who is he cheating? His master. He's paying it forward, as we would say. He's looking out for who his friends are going to be in the future, and I'll cut you a deal. Later, you cut me a deal. If I scratch your back, I expect you to scratch mine. Folks, I was in business for many years, and many people operate on that basis. Salespeople. I'll do something for you. If you notice, the people who sell the most stuff in America, and if you study economics and study business as I did, have a degree in it, the thing that distinguishes America from the world in a business sense is salesmanship. We developed that science or that art. It's not a science, it's an art. We developed it early. And one of my first jobs while I was still in school was going door to door up in far northwest Texas, Lubbock area above. Sir, I'm here to sell you a Bible. Now, obviously, I didn't start with that phrase. You start with a phrase that'll get you in the door. Well, how are you doing? Boy, you look good today. How's it going? Or you make some comment about the surroundings. Take your bill and write 80. And his master praised the unrighteous manager. Whoa. This man just got gypped. But he praises this unrighteous manager because he acted, here's the reason, shrewdly. And for the sons of this age, this is the reason Jesus says, the sons of this age, worldly people, of this age, worldly, are more shrewd in relation to their own kind than the sons of light. Which are we? Are we sons of this age, worldly people? Or are we sons of light? If we're a Christian, we're devoted to be sons of light. And he's saying, John, you're not even living up to doing as well as you could, being a son of the light. Take a lesson from this shrewd, worldly person. And I say to you, make friends for yourselves by means of the wealth of unrighteousness, so that when it fails, and it will, they, indefinite they, but I think that's the Lord, God and Jesus and the Spirit, they will receive you into the eternal dwellings. What? This is one of the parables that we scratch our heads often the most, saying, what on earth? What did Jesus say? Let's go and see if we can find out. Let's take the word shrewd. I looked it up with Merriam-Webster. Shrewd, having or showing the insight, intelligence, and understanding to make good judgments about practical matters as in business or finance. A shrewd investor. And other types of definitions like that. But I also checked the etymology of the word. How did we get this word shrewd, and what did it used to mean, and how does it mean today? It's often helpful. Shrewd, the etymology, first used in English in the 14th century, comes from Middle English, shrewd, different spelling then, originally meaning wicked or evil, related to shrew, a malicious person, or the small rodent. You know, that little mouse they call a shrew, especially in the United Kingdom. Over time now, its meaning shifted to clever or astute, keeping the idea of being sharp, but in a more positive sense. Obviously, Jesus used it in the more positive sense because he commended the shrewdness of this man and recommended it to us. It's so. Let's work on the phrase, wealth of unrighteousness. I checked out the translation of this Greek word, or this Greek phrase, in several of the translations, and they were all fairly consistent. Wealth of unrighteousness. The CSV says worldly wealth, I think, something like that. So let's take and show you what I came up with. This is from one of the commentaries I have. This is an expanded translation by Kenneth S. of Weiss. And the master praised, he's translating, but it's a loose translation. And the master praised the estate manager, whose character was that of one who violates both law and justice with impunity. because he acted shrewdly with his own best interest in mind. And I've highlighted key areas. This praise being in view of the fact that the sons of the Spirit of this age, Christians, are shrewder in their dealings with their own kind than the sons of the light. And as for myself, I am saying to you, make for yourselves friends by means of the use of the riches which are the object and desire of the righteous world, in order that when they, the riches, fail, they, the friends you have made by your generosity, may welcome you into everlasting dwelling places. The longer I read that, the longer I thought it was too long for you to get the point. But at any rate, I'm going to try to explain it more. It made a lot of sense to me after I'd studied it for 2 days, but you didn't have that advantage. So, my apologies. We'll work on it. But this is important, that you understand this phrase. The wealth of unrighteousness. You know why? Jesus is going to commend you if you use it shrewdly. The wealth of unrighteousness. And that means not that you're unrighteous in the way you made it. No. As this example is. But these are the normal riches of the world that you get whatever means that you use. Jesus has the way to do it shrewdly so as to be saved. Let's look. Be shrewd by your way into heaven. All right, that's our title. It's not rude to be shrewd. Watch. These are the 4 points, three, that I'm going to make. Learning to see present truth. We got to admit what the reality is, what the truth is. It's see it and accept it. Second, learning to see future value and security. Being able to look to the future. What is may not always be here. Thirdly, making eternal friends now. Okay? Let's take them one at a time. Learning to see present truth. This job won't last. It's over. This guy saw that. Think about your job. One day it's gone. And we live in a time where they leave often before we want. The old days of when I grew up, you joined the factory and you worked a lifetime and you retired. Those are gone in most cases. Wise economists advise, or if those who are advising business school graduates, so I was a business school graduate, they say, prepare yourself to constantly be learning. You're liable to have several different kinds of jobs. That's just the way life is now. So, this job, as important as it is in many ways, best not be your prime objective and interest. Because it's not going to last. Secondly, there is no security here. Is that what that says? Yeah. It's clearer up there than it is down here. Maybe it's because of who's looking. There is no security here. It's what the man had to face. He's gone. He's been fired. Anybody here been fired? You don't have to raise your hands. One of my first jobs, the boss brought me in and said, you know, a lot of people around here think we ought to fire you. Wasn't exactly what I was thinking I was going to hear. He said, but I believe in you and we're going to give you another shot. I knew what he was talking about. This job wasn't for me. I was really having to gut it out to just be interested in it. It was tough. And I made it my mission on that very moment. I'm going to go back in. I'm going to do the greatest job this boss has ever seen. And he's going to offer me a raise and a promotion. And I'm going to say, thank you, I quit. That's what I thought. 12 months later, that's what I did. I wanted to leave on good terms of doing a good job, getting a good recommendation, but I didn't want the job. Ultimately, I found this one. I need to act with urgency. Know what the guy did? He said, in essence, the boss says, you're fired. He immediately went out and found at least 2 debtors. Cut a deal with them. So he'd have something to go to. But he acted urgently, quickly. I must act with what I can do. He said, you know, I'm not strong enough to dig. I can't do that. And I don't want to beg. For those of you who've been job hunting, you size up what you want to do and what you don't want to do, etc. You're honest with yourself. And then I must choose. I have to make a decision. Just can't leave it in limbo. What does Jesus tell us to do? He says, learn to see the present truth and admit it. What must we see in order to ultimately see heaven? Lord, I'm a sinner. I have sinned. That's where it starts. And if you don't start there, you're not going to end up where you want to go. It starts there of admitting the truth about I got a problem. I am a sinner. I need your help. I need forgiveness. I need to do better. All right, let's go to number 2. Learning to see future value and security. All right, we admit the present. I am a sinner. Can we begin to believe in the future? What we can have in the future? And the security of it? Are you secure in your desire to go to heaven? Over the years, when I've asked this question of people, Christians, they will usually say, well, I really hope so. And what do we mean by that hope? Wishful thinking? The hope of the Bible is confidently placing your trust in God. That's hope. Something you desire and something you expect. Do you expect to go to heaven when you die? If you were to answer that question right now, if you died today, would you go to heaven? I'm going to be brave. I'm going to ask you right now. Everybody who really believes that if you died today, you're going to heaven? Raise your hand. Now the next question is, why do you believe that? What is your confidence? Where is your confidence? Where was the confidence of this shrewd, unworldly man? On his future friends, the one he had taken care of in the present. Do you see the parallel? Let's go and look. Do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth. We're going to Matthew now. Jesus speaking. Treasures on earth. That's analogous to unrighteous wealth or unrighteous riches. Treasures on earth, where moth and rust destroy and where thieves break in and steal. But store up for yourselves treasures in heaven. Oh, what could they be, and how do I store them up in heaven? How do I start investing in the First National Bank of heaven rather than the First National Bank of Sugar Land or of John or of you, using that as a metaphor? But store up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust destroys, and where thieves do not break in or steal. What's his argument thus far? Do the sensible, shrewd thing. Don't put your life in things that are insecure, that rust, or where moths can eat it up, or it just doesn't last. Put it in an investment that is secure and that is eternal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. Where's your treasure? A lot of people will say, well, my treasure is my job, because that's where your heart is. Treasure is my house and my yard and my bank account. Okay, that's where your heart is. My treasure are my children or my child. Well, that's where your heart is. My treasure is my physical family, my husband, my wife, my aunts, my uncles, etc. Well, that's where your heart is. Where did Jesus say put your heart? In Him. If you love mother or father, son or daughter, husband or wife, brother or sister, more than me, you're not worthy of me. See the point? Are we investing our heart, and He becomes our treasure? That which we would sacrifice everything for. That's what he's talking about. Do what this shrewd guy who was unrighteous, no question about that. But you cause them sons of light, you sons of light, make shrewd decisions within the sphere of your spiritual life to invest in the future. Further, the eye is the lamp of the body. So then if your eye is clear, your whole body will be full of light. That's just a physical fact. Sue, your hair is a little bit disheveled. You should have brushed a little harder this morning. Rick, you should have shaved. That's the way I see it. Oh. Sue, you look lovely. Rick, you're okay. Why? I have astigmatism. The lenses correct my imperfect ability to see. Do you want Jesus to correct, to be your vision, to direct how you look at things? Who sets the chart of your values with Him first? And you begin to look at your world, yourself, and all about you through those glasses or those corrected eyes. But if your eye is bad, as mine are without glasses, your whole body will be full of darkness. I'll go around trying to correct people that don't need correcting because I'm not seeing correct. If then the light that is in you, if I think this is light, this is it. You keep saying, John, it's not there. Well, I see it. Well, John, it didn't. No. You see? As long as I'm convinced I don't need correction, I will not see truth accurately. If then the light that is in you is darkness, how great is the dark. You know why it's great? Because you don't know it and you will defend error to the hilt. You will not be convinced by anybody or anything because you don't think you're wrong. So important. Do you know those are the people that cannot be saved? Those that will not change. Those who will not repent. Those who will not admit they're wrong. In other words, if you don't have humility to admit your faults, you cannot be saved. Repentance demands a change. No one can serve two masters, for either he will hate the one and love the other, or he will be devoted to one and despise the other. You cannot serve God and wealth or mammon or unrighteous wealth. You can't. You know why? They both make totalitarian demands. In other words, all or nothing. Now, the devil will lie to you. He will say, no, John, you don't have to give that up. Well, you can have a little bit of it. I know it's described in the Bible as sin. But, it's only one time, and you're not really devoted to it. You're not hooked. You can do it when you want to, and you can stop it when you want to. How many of you have ever had quit smoking thinking that way? I quit smoking as a youth. Well, I was in my 20s, early 20s. I quit smoking about 10 times. You know when it worked? When I admitted I was hooked. I was addicted. And this was going to have to take more than just, okay, I quit. No, it takes steps. Not have it around. It's what you have to do to break habits. Repent. You cannot serve God and wealth. You can't do both. It's either God or it's the devil who keeps lying to us, saying, oh yeah, you can have it both. You can have it both ways. Because he knows that ultimately he gets us. And now this from Luke 12. And he was also saying to the crowd, when you see a cloud rising in the west, immediately you say, a shower is coming. And so it turns out. And when you see a south wind blowing, you say, it will be a hot day. And it turns out that way. You hypocrites, you know how to analyze the appearance of the earth and the sky, but why do you not analyze this present time? Why don't you see me as the Messiah, the Son of God? And why do you not even on your own initiative judge what is right? For while you are going with your opponent to appear before the magistrate on your way there, there's some dispute. And you could be in the wrong, and the judge could hit you with a heavy fine. So he says, for while you're going with your opponent to appear before the magistrate on your way, there make an effort to settle with him. That's the prudent, shrewd thing to do. So that he may not drag you before the judge, and the judge turn you over to the officer, and the officer throw you into prison, and say to you, you will not get out of there until you have paid the very last cent. What's his point? You make better decisions about material things to protect them than you do your own spirit, because you're going before a judge. Anybody here just want to stand before the judge of the universe, God, and say, Lord, I deserve to be here. I did. I read what you said, and I've done it all. Anybody here want to say that? I don't. I can't. Last, making eternal friends now. Now. And his master praised the unrighteous manager because he had acted shrewdly for the sons of this age, this world, worldly people, more shrewd in relation to their own kind than the sons of light, godly people. And I say to you, make friends for yourselves by the means of the wealth of unrighteousness. In other words, that which God has bestowed upon us that could be used, and most of the time by most people is used in unrighteous ways. You take them as the son of light, seeing the danger. You use them to invest in your future of heaven. I believe that's the point he's making. Make friends for yourselves by means of the wealth of unrighteousness, so that when it fails, and it will, the body being the prime example, if it's not one thing, it's another. And that when it fails, they will receive you into the eternal dwelling. Conclusion. Read the next paragraph in Luke. He who is faithful in very little is faithful also in much. And he who is unrighteous in a very little is unrighteous also in much. Therefore, if you have been faithful in the use of unrighteous wealth, wealth that is normally and most often used unrighteously by most people, who will entrust the true riches to you. Folks, if we don't handle these things that God gives us, our health, our jobs, our families, our culture, our abilities, if we don't handle them to the glory of God, we're not going to see heaven. And if you have not been faithful in the use of that which is another's, who will give you that which is your own? We're just stewards. God owns it all. We're just managers. How we manage it? No servant can serve two masters. For either he will hate the one and love the other, or else he will be devoted to one and despise the other. You cannot serve God and wealth. Now the Pharisees who were lovers of money, there's the key, were listening to all these things. They were scoffing at him. And he said to them, you are those who justify yourselves in the sight of men. Well, I'm a lot better than most men in the world. I don't murder. I don't steal. Well, a lot. I maybe fudge a little bit on a time card at work, and the federal government, who's no, they'll never catch me. And he said to them, you are those who justify yourselves in the sight of men, but God knows your hearts. For that which is highly esteemed among men is detestable in the sight of God. It's not rude to be shrewd. I'm done. The water, I'll come back and get it. You're right. Thank you. No, thank you. I have found that in the course of life, this kind of instruction is more poignant at various times in our lives. It's more poignant to the people who know they're quicker to death than they've ever been. And so you start thinking about these eternal things. That's good. We ought to be thinking about even as young people. Let's put our investment in heaven. Just as a quick update, I have an incurable heart disease. That's what's been finally diagnosed. It's called amyloidosis. I know I had to work on trying to how to say that. It's a certain strain of amyloidosis, and it's rare, and there's no cure. But fortunately, the latest doctor, and she is the 9th doctor I have seen on this journey, and Lord help me with that, among all the doctors. She informed me, she said, Mr. Kilgore, if you'd come here 10 years ago or 7 or 8 years ago, we would have just told you, you're terminal, get ready. But now, we still have to tell you you're terminal, and we all are. We just don't know when. But now we can help you deal with the symptoms, which mainly, in my case, are breathlessness and a lack of energy. I have more energy in the morning than I do in the afternoon and evening. You may want to factor that in if you miss me sometimes in the evening. And further, we're going to give you a medication which was only introduced in 2024. It's only been out, 3 years, 3 years. And it's not covered by insurance. I've already checked on the price. I think I can afford it. So I was relieved if it turns out that way. And it will hopefully slow down the process. And you could be a candidate for our next medical trial. We begin testing a drug that reverses the process and could be a longer term answer to your problem. You know what the long-term answer for me is? What is it? Loudly. Heaven, exactly. Into your hands, Lord. And I'm beginning more and more to look forward to it. Now, mainly I'd like to stick around for a while to just settle up affairs, I got some people I want to give stuff to. So if they don't have a big mess, left behind. But I want you to know that. Now you know everything I know. And as you know, I'm not big on talking about it every time you see me. So if I don't, I will inform you when anything changes. But let's go forward and look forward to being with the Lord and all of his people. I'm looking forward to it. Thank you for listening. But remember this lesson. Let's be shrewd. Let's be good stewards of what God has given us. I want to be. And I want to help you be, and I want you to help me be a good steward. Thank you for listening. If you know you're a sinner and you want to reach out and start investing in heaven, you may need to take the first step this morning. Whatever that is, if we can help you in any way, come. Let's stand and sing.